What's up, family? Welcome back to the IG Live series that I'm going to be hosting all around masculine, feminine leadership, trusting yourself, creating a benevolent future pathway for humanity, for entrepreneurs, for those that are seeking a better way, coaches, consultants, healers in the space. If you are in the relationship space, if you are in the business space, if you are in the public speaking, service space, Web3, whatever it is, we're going deep. Today I have my good sister Jordan Sanchez joining the show. And if you are watching live, please do type in the comments that you're here. Let us know that you're here. And let me know what you think about instinct and intuition and soul activation. Is that good too, personally? And if so, what is it? And also, if you have any questions, put them in the chat as we bring on Jordan here and we go into the zone. So I want to welcome everyone who's watching wherever you are in the world, saying good evening from Uluwatu. I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from and what's alive for you. So essentially right now we are, entering Q3 of 2022. It's been a wild, wild year, as I know many of you have experienced. And for a lot of folks, they're still kind of like playing defense right now for many, many, many reasons, right? And I don't blame them because it's been intense. The last 2 years have been probably the most intense most of us have lived through, which is pretty wild. Miss Jordan, I'm hitting accept on your invite. It said you cannot join though. I don't know why. There she is. We did
Hey,
it.
I think I had a delay.
What's good? What's good? Good morning
Uh,
over there.
Good morning. I know, bright and early. It's so funny because I just saw in my memories. We seem to always like connect in a way like that can be observed, whether it's an IG, a podcast, or something like same time of year. And I don't know
Really?
if you remember my Hot Brewed Truth, but it was like an 8 a.m. coffee morning show that I had for like a year and a half. I had you on twice, and I just got the memory, and it said double shot, Miss Jordan and KO, and it was like from
Whoa.
4 years ago, and I literally got it like right after you asked me to come on, and I'm like, this is interesting.
Whoa.
Something in the air.
Life is cyclical, so clearly we're coming back to return to where we already been, but on a different layer of the spiral, right?
Amazing. Well, happy evening where you're at. What is it, like 10?
It
10 p.m.?
is. It's 10 in Uluwatu, and I mean, I'm a night owl, so it's pretty normal, but it also is, yeah, it's one of the beautiful challenges of being in Asia and talking to you folks over there across the pond.
Mm, awesome. Yeah, it's a little interesting for me to get up and get at it this early now. But my kids were up, like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed since 6 a.m. So I was like, this is perfect. Everything's aligning. I get to take a shower before the call.
Yeah, totally. I get it. And sending love to those two deities over there. And
Mhm.
I mean, Jordan, for the folks watching this, because this will be posted and repurposed, I'd love for you to introduce yourself because I can introduce you, but I'd love for you to introduce yourself and some of the work you do, what you're involved in.
Sure. Okay. Well, I have I have arrived to a space where I am not a big fan of labels. And for the purposes of introducing myself, I have been called many things. Soul activator, but mainly a spiritual mentor, inspirational speaker, and empathic healer. I, for years now, have worked with high functioning and high level entrepreneurial women, and in the most recent years done some co-ed stuff with you. Well, we've done co-ed stuff back then, but I think it's always been like with a male counterpart when I've done co-ed stuff. So primarily I host women's leadership experiences and I work with private one-on-one clients now. And that's pretty much all that's on my my current field, my current resume. I've noticed that over time, I've really been called to impact the impact makers. And so I don't really put out like big, you know, programs for lots of people. It's mainly word of mouth. I don't do any advertising. I think my website's outdated. I am a soul surgeon. I allow others to find within themselves and guide them through that process to elevate to their highest frequency and the timeline that they're worthy of. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yes. Thank you for that. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, folks will maybe remember, I mean, we've interviewed each other multiple times. I facilitated at your retreat in Tulum. You facilitated at my retreat in Costa Rica. And we've worked together in New Mexico. And yeah, I would say without a doubt among the soul-led empathic oracles out there, Jordan is one of the best. So looking forward to this conversation and any folks on here that are joining that get to meet you and experience you for the first time. And anyone that is watching live, or if you're watching later, you know, drop a comment with a question or something you're grateful for, either one. And we'd love to also engage with y'all, because I'm doing these live now, which I really like, and I find that Instagram Live tends to be the best these days. I remember back in the old days, Facebook Live was awesome, but I haven't really experienced that lately. So yeah, loving getting back in the interview mode. And my first question, which is directly tied to your line of work and something I'm thinking about deeply as I talk to a bunch of people launching Primal Polarity and going deep into masculine feminine energetics, especially with entrepreneurs, coaches, healers, consultants, a whole bunch. What are the top struggles of a woman who is a high performer, whether she's corporate or entrepreneur? What are those top struggles that you see all the time?
Okay, so I'll share what I see and also what I experience. You know, as you know, and I'm sure your wonderful audience and allies watching know, we're still fighting an old paradigm. And what I've found is common is this misconception of women rising. The misunderstanding of that means rise in our masculine and overpower the masculine. And this is a socially conditioned falsity. It's a misconception. That's not true rising. The true rise is to create balance, to create healthy polarity, to honor individual strengths. And so, you know, a lot of high functioning women, a lot of many women who are you know, whether they're powerful impact makers, whether they're just the providers in their home, whether they are even stay-at-home moms or entrepreneurs attempting to get themselves out there, be seen, whatnot. They feel like in order to be at a certain level that they have to either compete with a masculine energetic and or like dominate whatever field they're in their masculine, and they regretfully are misinformed by society, and we continue to be misinformed that this is the way. And the true rising of a strong feminine is one with clarity of the balance, one with understanding of her feminine strengths, and that this is equally as powerful. It may look different, but it's equally as powerful. And so I'd say that's the number one thing. And then all women, and it doesn't matter how ascended you are, how much plant medicine you've done, how many coaches you've had. I have women that have invested thousands and thousands of dollars in other coaches and me, up to the hundreds of thousands. And every single human woman right now in my field, even some that I've worked with for years, continue to return to a story of worthiness. Do I deserve this? Am I good enough? A story of comparisonitis. Well, she's doing this. Well, how can I compete? And then it moves them back into their masculine energetic. So I'd say, you know, the imbalance of trying to compete and stand in strong in our masculine and forgetting our feminine strengths would be one. And the second one is returning to this space of socially conditioned unworthiness and failing to acknowledge the innate worthiness and divine gifts that we have.
Yeah, so well said. Couldn't have said it better myself, especially, not being a woman and being a man, having a masculine experience and seeing this from the other side of the polarity, and how it impacts that. And really, you nailed it. Some people want to blame capitalism. This is a favorite one, blame capitalism, right? Or blame the patriarchy. Sometimes they get conflated together. They are different things, and they're also not good or bad in the idea sense. So capitalism just means capital is running things. Capital means money and investment, which is actually an amazing thing, which is what's created this iPhone and all this amazing information technology and structure around us. On the patriarchy side, and a lot of people will dispute this, but patrus, if you go to the Latin, you go to the etymology, yes, it means father, pater, but if you go even deeper, to have a patronage or the paternal, it's the family. So patriarchy is actually rule of the family. Doesn't mean male domination. And somebody will, dispute that, and that's fine. The word has been really weaponized. But anyway, I say all that to say, those structures have set things up where everyone has to be in their masculine, burned out, over young, hustle, don't rest, don't stop, don't quit. That is like, if you want to hustle in the culture, right? Whether you're climbing the ranks at Google or Amazon, or you're launching your coaching business for the first time, that's kind of the default mode. And unfortunately, for a lot of women and female bodies that are feminine dominant beings, it's especially going to be hard for them. Because, as you said, a woman in her radiance and her full feminine power is a powerhouse. It's a sight to behold. And yet, we don't have many good role models for this. Because for me, I go to like problem solver mode in how did we get here and how can we like reverse this, especially with clients I'm supporting and now calling in, couples and people in the dating dynamic where a woman that you were describing wants to meet a strong, divine masculine partner. Meanwhile, they have a lot of this armor built up, or maybe some of these patterns and strategies. And how did we get here? What's going on? Like, why do so many women default to this? Are you seeing?
Well, it goes back to what I just expressed. And as I was hearing you speak, yeah, like the default hustle. And even for myself, if I move into a space of scarcity or fear, the default is back to hustle. And that is directly related to a conditioned space of unworthiness. I have to hustle because I have to compete. Instead of tuning in and understanding innate worthiness and allowing ourselves to shine, the default when we go into fear is to compete, is to hustle, is to be this or that instead of where are the gifts within. And so worthiness is huge. Like I've shared, and some of my private clients. I do not charge a low exchange these days. They invest hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they are high functioning, and they have world-changing businesses. And when they are approached from a specific mindset or an ego, if you will, an ego gets a bad rap. We know it's just here to protect us. But once that starts to rise, they return to this little girl that has been conditioned to feel unworthy by society, by upbringing, and by self-talk over the years. And we've learned, and I'm saying we, speaking for women, we have been taught, unless we unlearned and retaught ourselves, to disconnect from our intuition. And when you disconnect from your intuition, you're seeking validation outside of yourself. And when you seek validation outside of yourself, you are sent back into the space of socially conditioned fear and unworthiness. And it's sad, and it's hard, and it's something that we've been together as allies in many environments and many seasons. This is something that even when I was impacting women already, and even when I
Not sure if you can hear me, family. Let me know if you can hear us in the comments, because I'm losing connection with Jordan here. I don't know if it's me or is it you. But all right, I'm back. We broke the internet. Okay, so you can hear me. We might have broken the internet a little bit there. Big codes coming through though. So
I'm
there she
back.
is. She's back. She's
I'm
back.
back. It's not you
Broke the
or
internet.
I. It is, I don't even want to say it because I don't want to get kicked off of this live. But when we start bringing truth and information that's going to ascend the population, we're thwarted. And that's what happens. So you guys are invited to hang in. If we get disconnected, we'll always return to you.
Yeah, what you were just sharing, Jordan, is like it's in the spell casting of language, which is why I was bringing up the roots of capitalism and patriarchy. Worthiness. What's your net worth? How much self-worth do you have? What's that worth, right? It's all about value, and nobody can take that away from you. And so your self-belief, your self-conviction, your self-worth, if you really, which is love, if you really love yourself and trust yourself, and you said the magic word, which is intuition, it's an intelligence, it's a wisdom beyond the mind, it's beyond reason, it's beyond logic, it's beyond the material scientific worldview that most people hold on earth in the 3D. And it's simply and clearly the most powerful force, especially for the feminine. And this is why I've been playing with this idea. I'm not sure who I heard it from first, but I know many amazing speakers talk about it. But the feminine in her full power is an oracle, even more so than the masculine. Masculine can go full wizard, but the oracle of the feminine heart, the feminine body, the feminine womb, the feminine being is on a whole nother level. And when I was hearing you say that, it's like, a lot of these women, boss women, entrepreneurs, running businesses, having families, when they cut off that self-worth, they're actually cutting off their oracle power, their oracular power, which is pure mana, right? And this is what Mary Magdalene was talking about. This is what the Temple of Isis was about. This is about, the suppression of the feminine for real, like you were bringing through, which might have broken the internet here, for thousands of years, because that power, the forces that shouldn't be know that if that power is online, people can't be duped into being slaves.
Yeah. And what's interesting is we've been so conditioned for so long that, from my opinion and my viewpoint now, the only real suppression is coming from ourselves, is coming from us. And choosing to stay in a space of safety and comfort and be told, this is how you should be, this is what you should do. And what's interesting is I used to work, with women just starting on their spiritual or their awakening journey. And you came to one of my retreats. And the women, even at that level, have the same insecurities, the same self-doubts, the same worthiness issues as my private client who's paid me hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's something that is so ingrained that the only way to unravel it is to continue coming back to self. And that's really hard because we're in this world of information and technology. And yes, thank you for it. It allows me to talk to my dearest brother, and he's half a world away. And really disconnecting. And I think you taught me this because, during my last divorce and I was in an unhealthy space and I'm still trying to help people, but I'm not fully embodied in all these things. It's so easy to, like I said, continue to seek validation outside of yourself. Scroll, what's she doing? What's she doing? What's she doing? Podcast after podcast, book after book. And we try to intake all this information without integrating it though. And so the key is, yes, learn, get aids, get helps, get coaches, sign up for popularity experience and learn with your partner, or sign up with an entrepreneur that can up-level your business and learn, and then step back, tune into yourself, redesign it with your own coding, and integrate that into your human experience. And that's the only way we're going to ascend out of an understanding of, but wait, can I? But wait, am I worthy of this? Do I even deserve this love, or have I fucked up too much already? And we're so afraid of karma too. This is something, speaking of like woo-woo words and, and internetized. What did you say? Words that have been overused. Karma is not just I fuck you so I get fucked. Karma is I'm emanating out a frequency in the world that is of the highest elevation. And so with these, I attract that frequency back into my experience in the form of blessings, manifestations, abundance, love, connection, truth, awareness, understanding, right? So really not hanging on to these ideas and ideals of, even in the spiritual community, this is how it's supposed to be. No one can tell you how it's supposed to be. You can learn. And and one of the reasons I always love dropping in with you is because you are such a history buff, and you really can tune into like the generational patterns and the patterns from, you know, different origins, and watch them play out in real time here. And it always brings me back to an awareness that this is not new. And there are other generations that have tried to unlearn and got to a certain step, but we're really at a pivotal point right now, I think, in humanity, where we know this. We know. So now it's just having enough self-belief to one person at a time. You know, I'm big on the Disney movies right now because I have little babies. You know, the next right step, the next best move. I'm quoting Frozen. You know, what's the next right thing in my experience that's going to bring me back to self, let me embody, and integrate what I've already learned.
Yes.
That was kind of a riff. I don't know if I'm channeling or what. I didn't even know what you asked.
Definitely channeling. Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is huge on integration. Back to that. Integration is a buzzword, and it's invaluable, because how I look at integration from like the high performance lens, right? All the coaches watching right now, you know, I'm looking at you. We all know that we all want to be better, right? We're trying to improve, which is amazing. And the shadow is that you get stuck and it becomes a loop, right? Trauma loop, healing loop, or like you said earlier, the hustle loop. And a lot of people are on those loops, including myself in the past. I've been on many of them. Probably on one now that I'll realize later. The thing about integration, though, is it becomes, you know, you have this idea of skill training or learning a new thing, dating a new person, right? There's conscious incompetence, where like we're trying and we're fucking up. Great. There's conscious competence. All right, we got it, but we still have to use effort. We're moving. And then there's unconscious competence, right? So it's so deep, it's integrated, that you actually don't even have to think about it anymore, and you start becoming really powerful. And yes, through repetition, through training, through your intuition. Like you said something really beautiful, Jordan, like recoding it in your own way. And this is exactly what any good thinker, magician, artist, you know, teacher does, is they take the information, they sit with it, and they personalize it. They make it unique, and they recode it, and then they can actually share it again, and it's going to be completely different because they took time to integrate it. And to really take time to integrate something requires that you are attuned, which means you're aligned with intuition in real time. And I think a lot of people right now are having to recode heavy information, such as your partner, your town, your friends, your government, your job, are actually not serving you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of people, I think, have woken up to that in a massive way over the last 2 years, and are recoding and integrating such big information, such big lessons, that it's getting kind of crunchy. And some people are hitting the eject button, and they're just like, no, it's their fault, or it's yeah, I'm a victim, and it's you that did this to me. And instead, they didn't sit and cook and actually recode fully.
Yeah, I love everything you shared, and something that cued me, you know, when you talked about integration as a buzzword in the very beginning, and then after this whole share, here's another misconception. I must just be the whistleblower today. Here's another misconception, is talking, especially for women, about connecting back to your intuition. Integration does not always equal process. And here's the thing. This is a huge buzzword too. And so many women that I've worked with, they come to me and they sign on as a private client. They've worked with X coach and this program, and I've been to this retreat and all the things. And they think they have to process everything. And so one of the things that I share, like integration doesn't necessarily mean, yes, you can let it cook, you can let it marinate, you can discover, you can uncover, you can recode, and sometimes you have an innate knowing. Sometimes that intuition hits the moment you have it, and integrating it means taking it as truth in your system immediately. Everything does, you don't have to process everything. Not everything has to be a process. And I share this with my girls because it's like, I'm debating leaving my husband for 4 weeks, and I'm in this like self-loathing and this pain and all of this stuff. And this is my, like you said, the loop. This is my healing. It's my journey. I'm like, he's a fucking asshole. Like, you know what you got to do. It doesn't have to be a process. And that's one example, but you can apply it to anything. Integration is important, like you shared. And when you're really moving on the path of awareness, I don't even like to say spiritual awakening anymore, because there's just so many misconceptions and so many buzzwords. But when you are committed and convicted to a path of self-awareness and ascension, connection to source and expression of self, try not to hang on the buzzwords. So the buzzwords are buzzwords for a reason. They have meaning. There's truth to them. And when you move to a space where now you are trying to operate in a form of what you've been told this word means, you're back, like you said, on the loop, and you're back in the space of social conditioning. What does that word mean to you? I can have a medicine journey and I can integrate it in 2 days, or it can take me 5 years, depending on what comes through. Do I need to let it marinate? Do I need to process? And can I just connect to my intuition and know that I'm receiving this as my truth, and I'm going to emanate that frequency back out?
Yeah. Let's stop processing, conscious community. It's beautiful. It's beautiful when it's needed and it's absolutely necessary. And you can become addicted to processing. You can become addicted to healing. And trauma bonding in the coaching industry. There's a book that I won't write, but someone should write. Should be like a full expose based on just that idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've talked about this too. In one of my programs, the Scarlet Circle, it's a 9-month program, and I literally had to place a 2-month integration period in the middle of the program, because it's fault of mine too. Like, we're all guilty of it. This is a learning process, right? Learning process, not a process. Creating codependency. My job, I'm not your guru. I'm not here to have you follow me for years and years and years. That's great if you want to turn into allyship, or it's great if I have things or new things that serve you as I continue on my path. And the goal is to go inward. The goal is to find self, create your own understanding, create your own connection to source. A program like, and I've had to fire clients, and I'm sure you have had to also. It's like, you have a new program coming out with your queen. Great, do the program. Learn, integrate, and then ascend. Now become a private client if you want to go in deeper. You can't sign up for this polarity program 7 times. At that point, it's not serving you. At that point, I become your heroine. I'm your fix. And I was a fix for so many women for so long, and probably part of my own trauma bonding, through my own healing and my own stuff, through my own processing, finding my worthiness, finding my affirmation outside of me, even within my clients, instead of understanding that the power comes from within. I'm teaching from a space of innate wisdom, and those who are attracted to the frequency at this time can be served in that season, and then they can be released to disperse their own medicine.
Yes. Cyclical return and seasonal growth. I mean, this is the number one lesson of nature. There are seasons, and like you just said, if we can attune to the seasons, we don't get caught in the loop. That's actually a big code right there. Let's dive in on something you said just now.
Okay.
Let's go with women, because there's some crazy stats I feel like people don't know. I've been researching this a lot because I'm really, first off, doubling down on like being forward facing with more relational work. And I'm just like studying business almost every day. And 80% of buyers for all consumer goods All consumer goods. Look at the consumer price index, 80% are female. Personal development is even higher, and it's hard to judge because you can look at different ratings, but the personal development space, the conscious community space, when it comes to purchases, clicking the checkout, clicking buy now, it's all women. What is going on there? And why? Like, because like I've never heard of a men's group that would behave in the way you just described, where like we need to like pause the men's circle to like create some distance so there's not codependency. I've never even heard of that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, this is lovely. I think this is going to be the main code coming through for today. Goes back to our conditioned mindset of unworthiness. This will make me feel good. This will make me more beautiful. This will elevate my business. This will affirm me. Like my Scarlet Circle, one of the reasons the intergroup is there, the integration period is in that group, is because it's a sacred sisterhood. And even teaching them to go inward and rely on self, when bonding with other sisters, now I have attachment. Now I have attachment to what I'm worthy of. Tell me that I can make $1 million a year. Tell me that I deserve a better husband. Tell me that I can be in a great body. Tell me, share with me, tell me. And everything consumer based is telling us that. Buy this, lift your boobs here, make your lips more plump. That's what we like. Listen to this music and you'll be in tune with God. And anything you can buy as a woman is to aid you in becoming what they want to tell you is a better version of you. Right? Men don't have, I'm not saying men can't have worthiness issues, but men are wired differently. And most men, not all, most men can observe something, understand if it will be a benefit to their life or not, and make a clean disconnect if not. Women can't. One of the things I have my women do in all of my programs on my private clients are like huge purchases, specifically of their closet, and I tell them, just because you feel good in that t-shirt from college doesn't mean that it is a representation of your highest version of self. So tune in. How do I want to express? How do I want to be represented? How do I want to feel in my body? And there is always like a hint of, well, I need to keep this 1920s flapper dress because it hid my lower belly. And if I ever have to go to a 20s party, I know that I won't look fat. Like, this is how women think. And it's like, you paid $7.99 for that at the Halloween store 5 years ago. How about let's tune into, if I ever get invited to a 1920s party, how do I want to feel and be represented in my body? And if my body is not in alignment with that, what can I do in my space, in my system right now to ascend to my fullest expression and make sure that my physical essence is in alignment with my soul so that I can go into any store, buy any flapper dress I want, and not be in fear of hiding me, right? It's back to worthiness. We buy shit because it makes us feel like we're going to be better, more wanted. Every human on earth and women, it's part of this. I don't want to say needy, but part of this desire to be desired. Every human on earth, though, wants to be innately understood, received, seen, heard. And so, because women are not taught from a young age, and I'm learning this now, I'm raising a daughter, I'm raising a son and a daughter, but I'm raising a daughter, because our voices have been suppressed, not just by a paradigm or a patriarchy, but even by ourselves and how we speak and how we watch our mothers and their mothers. We know we're not taught to be fully in our power. And so as we've been shushed growing up, we felt some type of way, some type of rejection, some type of not fully received, not fully heard, not fully desired. And so then instead of tuning in and fully receiving, I have full body chills right now, side note, fully receiving, I'm thinking of something you told me in the taxi in Tulum, so I will go back there. But fully receiving self Instead of going there, what can I get, do, have, be? Who can I meet? You know, it's like this sick opportunist inside of us. What can fulfill this hole within me where I don't feel innately worthy?
Channeling. Let's go.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if you remember or not, but in Tulum, we're in the taxi on the way home after the hookah bar, and I think I was telling you some of like some things that I experience when I'm channeling, and Kevin says, "That's so 2012." He told me. So I was like, I got full body chills, and I can hear you saying that's so 2012. I still get chills. I don't really get breakouts anymore, but I still get chills.
I mean, 2020 is the new 2012. So there you go.
We're keeping up with the times.
There's a lot of goosebumps. Have a lot of information. You can call them truth bumps.
I call them God. Yeah.
It's one of the psychic gifts. It's clairsentience or clairsensation. You've heard of clairaudience or clairvoyance, but the body is actually a super sensitive, hyperdimensional organ, right? So I get truth bumps all the time, especially when I'm speaking or understanding something or listening, and that's actually a cue for me that something's energy's moving, right? So yes, we make fun of it, and it's real for the people listening. Something you said that people want to argue with, and that's cool because I love a good discussion. But women, aka the feminine, the core principle, wants to be desired. That's a truth that you can experience. Of course, men want to be desired too, but it's different. Like you said, there's different wiring, and there's really amazing reasons for this. And I think there's also a spiritual dimension to this. So it doesn't have to be just like about mating and dating. Women want to be desired, which is why the insecurity tactics that someone was pointing out here in the comments of marketing work so well. Because a lot of the makeup products, a lot of the fashion industry, a lot of how women are portrayed in mainstream media, it's about taking their self-worth down so you can offer the solution, right?
Right, exactly.
And that's what you were saying. And the crazy news flash that you shared, and I know I've been coaching some women that this is deep underneath all the other stories about being oppressed, or it was my boyfriend or husband, or someone didn't love me. It's actually them policing themselves, like you said, suppressing their voice, which is not, it's not their fault. Like you said, they watched their mother do the same thing. They watched all their sisters do the same thing. There's that one, and then there's the sister wound itself, which obviously there's a correlate of all this on the masculine side. But women tearing down other women, right? Or checking to see like who's doing what. And the feminine hierarchy, no one ever talks about matriarchy, but matriarchy, or whatever you want to call it, is real. And women are in that mode, and you're a matriarch, literally. No, you have children, and you're a female leader of females. So I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit of the interdynamic of feminine with feminine energy and how we can actually flip that story positive.
It's so good. And we keep returning to the same points. Since my goosebumps are on point, I'm going to go there. It's really about returning to self. So I shared with you, like in some of my groups, I have them purge their closet, right? This isn't just purging what you think is in alignment or is going to serve you or whatever. It's actually reframing your thinking to understand that when you wear makeup, when you comb your hair, when you get dressed, the purpose of these things is an expression of your essence. So it's not to validate my worthiness, it's to express my essence from a truth space. So I tell them, I don't care if you're left with one fucking t-shirt in your closet. If that's you, that's who you be and who you desire to emanate out into the world, then that's the t-shirt you keep, right? I'm going to circle back to this, and I kind of talk in circles, but I loop around. Let me shift. I was reading Women Who Run with the Wolves, and there was a story in it, and it was talking about there's many stories in it if you've read that book, and it's about women in their wild primal nature, right? Simultaneously, I moved back from Mexico. I'm back in New Mexico not in my hometown that I grew up in, but still in a small rural area. And I'm watching people interact with their children, and I'm raising 2 children. And I'm not raising, you raise cattle. I am a steward in the lives of my children, right?
Yeah.
And so Scotty, my daughter, is running amok, and she's screaming, and my son's trying to sleep, and I shushed her, and I noticed myself shush her, and I could hear my parents had just left, and I had heard something. My mom said something around, you just let them climb on furniture and run wild, and then I'm reading this book, and then I noticed myself shush her, God bumps, and I realized in that moment I had to like stop and step back. Right now, it's not even teaching her by how I'm teaching myself. I'm literally suppressing her voice in the moment as a toddler when she's experiencing bliss and joy and fun. And why? Because we don't want people to look at us weird in Walmart. And so speaking to matriarchy and to sister wounds and all these things and changing the narrative, right? You've seen the meme, like a true queen will fix another queen's crown without telling her. I've literally done this so many times. I will walk up behind women and like gently, it's like I'm an angel. They don't even know I'm there. I like tuck their tag back in, or I pull the hair off of their shirt. When you are healed within self, and when you truly find a space of understanding your value, your divine essence, your gift, you have no need to tear down anybody else. And I haven't always been this way. I remember, when we were in Costa Rica, one of the times when we went to the Envision Festival, and we had an all night, and we brought in all the codes and all the things. It was so fun. And at the time, I was right out of a really abusive experience. You were my dearest ally and brother. I felt so like that, there was some essence even of a trauma bond there. And I was so like possessive over like me being your friend and me being your best friend and us hanging out all night. And I remember Zoe, who's now such a good friend and such a beautiful soul. And I remember feeling in my body like this jealousness, not because I wanted you to be my boyfriend, but because I was attaching and seeking validation and affirmation outside of myself that I'm worthy of having a friend, I'm worthy of being loved, I'm worthy of having fun. And so I'm having a picture of lions right now. I'm going to go in a different direction in a second, but the idea of like someone taking that from me caused this jealousy, which I didn't, because I had luckily done enough work on myself, I didn't act on it. But had that been 10 years prior, I probably would have. I would have cut her down in some way. I would have tried to embarrass her. I don't know. And the reason women do this is continuing back, where's my value? So when you can hold your value, when you know your worth, when you are a queen and not wearing it, but embodied, you can observe and see and recognize and acknowledge another queen in her full power and her full essence. And I'm going to tell you something else. It shifts. There almost becomes an intolerance for women who aren't operating that way. Right? And so thinking of my child and bringing it full circle, how can she ever know what she's fully capable of, what she is like fully expressed, what her full power is, if from such a young age, I'm shutting it down? And then, of course, she's going to act out, and of course she's going to see other females as threats because she is so unsure of who she be within herself that she doesn't know that she doesn't have to tear anyone else down to shine in her full light. But if I let her climb on the furniture, scream and run wild, when she meets another woman, another girl out on the playground, and she's screaming and running wild, she's not jealous. She's not angry. She's not trying to cut it down. In fact, it's the opposite. Wow, you're in alignment with me. You feel like me. You think like me. Now we're creating community. Now we're creating family. Now we're creating sister. And touching a little bit on the sister wound. We've been touching on it the whole time, but it all comes back to how you're valuing yourself. And if you're really acknowledging your true worth, or if you are programmed and operating in the program of unworthiness, and because I am unworthy now, and one of the things I do in my programs is I tell my girls, just change right now. Change the word jealousy Change the word jealous to inspired. Because if there's a woman and you're feeling some kind of way, it's because there's something in you that is desiring to be activated, and she's mirroring that to you. If she can have that, if she can be that, if she can do that, so can you. So instead of I'm jealous of her, I'm inspired by her, because I am now being reflected back. I'm having reflected back to me what is possible for me. 100%. One of my previous private clients who you met in Costa Rica, she came to your retreat, Melissa Jones. She wrote in a book called The Intentional Woman, and she spoke in one of my programs about one of the 7 pillars of her book. And it's the intentional woman does not judge. She observes. She observes what she's feeling. She observes how other people are operating. She observes her emotion regarding all of it, but she doesn't go into the space of judgment.
So many codes in here for the feminine beings listening, but also masculine beings. Pay attention, because this involves you too, obviously. The flip side of this story with the masculine side is challenge and competition, right? And like, who's the alpha in the masculine hierarchy? And it's so like beautiful to learn about, you know, this experience of, you know, the people in your programs and how you hold space, which I've seen many times, and how it just brings up to the surface instantly the bullshit stories and the lack of accountability. That's kind of what I'm just hearing underneath a lot of this. It's like, oh, I feel uncomfortable because that woman's sexy, powerful, doing her thing. Fuck. Instead of having accountability over that, like, fuck, I could do that, and I know I could, and I want it. No, she's a bitch, right? She's like, immediately just take the ball and put it in the other court. And I know men out there, we have our own version of that, and it's different. But there's a code there for everyone, especially the female entrepreneurs, coaches, healers. Pay attention, write this one down. Jealousy transmuted into inspiration. Huge game changer, huge game changer. On the intergenerational level, why are we so uncomfortable when kids are screaming or running around? They're fucking free. We're uncomfortable because they are not playing the game that we've played into, the adult game of be silent, don't make eye contact, keep your voice down, don't take up space. They're just like, fuck it. You wouldn't go into nature and try to tell an adult lion to keep it down, or, you know, don't walk over there, you know. No, he's going to do what he's going to do. Children are forces of nature that we gradually, like you say, we don't raise children. We're stewarding them. A lot of people are raising them like they're cattle or some kind of livestock, so they can, you know, put them in this little box, because that's what they were put into. They don't know any better. It's not that they're bad parents. They don't even know what they're doing because it was done to them. And I think, you know, obviously in the village, I would want to raise my children in. Let the children go fucking crazy. You still let them have boundaries, and you let them know the boundary zones, and you want them to be safe and to understand and play. But they have to learn by expression. And so this is one of the core things I've seen with the women I've had the privilege to work with, and I get a front row seat to their development. It's a lot of throat stuff. Like, it's been a theme of this whole conversation. Expression, owning their voice, all the times they didn't say no, or like, I don't want that, I don't desire this, often with men or romance, but also often with work or with the sisterhood. And then also just learning to take up space. Like, we need more feminine voices and feminine leadership on earth right now. And it doesn't look like matriarchy. It doesn't look like, let's get rid of the men, and if they're all women leaders, there'd be no war, and all this is all just really childish thinking. Instead,
yeah, I hate that as women t-shirts. Like, I despise them.
Right.
The future should be balanced.
Exactly.
Something was coming through for me regarding, and I don't know, you know, if this is geared towards your audience or not, but if you're open to continue to touch on the parenting and like moving into conscious parenting, you know, talking about being stewards of the lives of our children, like, it's really difficult. But when we were speaking earlier about trauma bonding, how many people are trauma bonded to their kids? That you don't own them. They're not you. They're not meant to be your mini-me's, you know. They're their own sentient beings, and you're here to hold the boundary and hold the safety for them to thrive and live. And it is really difficult, because once you become a parent, it's like you're playing a whole new game of unlearning, because these children are supposed to, we're taught that they're a representation of us. We're taught that they're only successful if they're developing in this way. We're taught that the odds are stacked against them if they're acting out in any certain way. And instead of really like nurturing their experience, we bring it into us, and now it becomes us. And it's again, back to the issue of worthiness. And this is for men and women. It's like, we're seeking like a certain amount of validation from what we create and trying to live our dreams to our children or whatever. And we're not raising them. And we're also not, they're not our cattle. They're not our slaves. They're not our property. And they are not our Band-Aid for our own childhoods. They're not our solution for absence of love in our life. We are merely stewards of their experience so that they can grow and thrive. And I know I said this already, but I really felt like I needed to share it again. And so I hope that this is hitting whoever it needs to hit on this thread. And it's okay. It's okay if you're judged. It's okay if people don't understand. It's okay. And it doesn't mean, you allow them to hurt themselves or others. But allowing your children to surface in their own right is such an important part of the hope and possibility of the lasting of our species.
Yeah. The pain that has been passed from mother to daughter, father to son for thousands of years, it has to end and it has to shift. Because at this point in the game on planet Earth, I don't know if anyone's been paying attention, but we are in a deep season. It's almost this, it's not a finale, but we're in the part of the season, like Game of Thrones, where shit is hitting the fan and the battle lines are drawn and like shit's going off right now. Economically, culturally, socially, emotionally, for a lot of people. I think more people have had huge breakups this year maybe than ever. I had a psychic, actually. I was part of this group, and really high level psychic, basically worked with millionaires, was saying that the frequency of 2022, even the numbers, there's 3 2s, it's all about divine union, the sacred alchemical marriage of masculine and feminine. And anything that's out of alignment will be washed away, and anything that is meant to be will be like solidified or sparked. And I've been watching this play out. I also have the goggles on for it, because I'm just like constantly learning about relationships, experiencing my own, teaching them. So it's like, I'm biased, it's fair, but this is about the next 7 generations. This isn't about being a cool hippie parent and letting your kid be super creative. No. This is about survival of the species, and more importantly, the thriving of the species, so we can break a lot of these generational, frankly, just downright maladaptive behaviors. Like the mainstream school system, what we feed children, how we talk to children, how we treat them in public. I mean, all of this stuff's got to go, because they're going to be the teachers. They're coming in with the freshest DNA humanity's ever had, right? We don't even need to get woo-woo that they're like star children or crystal star seed children, although there's some wild stories out there. Their DNA is fresh.
Yeah.
If you were just pure material based, they have the best DNA that's been recombined today. They have the best, they're the latest model. They have all the new features. And I'm sure as a mother, you're experiencing this. They're like gurus.
They teach me every day. It's wild. And they're, getting woo-woo. They're old souls. They're very intelligent beings. There are things that they do, there are ways that they be, that they have not been taught. They have not been taught by me. They have not been taught even by the television. I'm seeing things, and I'm continuing to humbly bow to their intellect, their expression, their understanding of connection. It causes me to shake, because it is so, I just have so much humility, and I'm grateful that I waited as long as I did. And I'm grateful that I was in this work of self-awareness and coming back to self before I had children, because otherwise, I mean, I just can't even imagine being in this like fear-based understanding and trying to raise children for my own validation and trying to create them to operate in a certain way in society. Like it blows my mind. And I think that, you know, it starts with us, and really coming, like, even if you already have children, even if you've been operating in a certain way, it's never too late. Like, start now with yourself, tune into yourself. And if you are not in a space where you are reliant on your own knowledge, this is where you get a coach. This is where you sign up for a program, relationship program. Learn, bringing it full circle. Learn, sign up and learn what it means to come together in union, what it means to co-create, what it means to co-parent, what it means to be in conscious relationship, what it means to stand through the seasons of shadows, and what it means to be elevated with somebody, you know. I was thinking when I was taking my shower before we get on this call, and I was thinking about how good love looks on you, and how by truly like finding, and I've seen you different with this queen. I've seen you with other partners. I've seen you single. I've seen you different because I've seen you surrender into the balance in your own system and recalibrate and relearn even your own leadership. And so when people think about doing a relationship course or hiring a coach or whatever, it's not just about you. It's about the ripple and then the tidal wave. Because if you can learn how to come in conscious connection with another human, now you can learn how to create from a space of balance and emanate a message of balance and truth that is stemming from a deeper space of channeling and source energy than just your own solidified ego. And your leadership changes, and the people you impact now are different and more widespread, and then the people they impact are different and more widespread, and it's a ripple. You don't hire a coach, you don't go do a relationship coach just because I don't want to fight with my husband. No, it is for the future, and not just the future in your own line. It's for the future of humanity. How are you going to interact with somebody different because you learned and then integrated? And then how are they going to take that? It's basically writing an invitation for them to up level in their own lives.
Let's go. Full power codes. So grateful for your channel. And like, yeah, I mean, it happens every time we've ever done this, but this is the new version, and I'm very grateful for you. And to also see how you have changed as a mother and in your relationship now, and like being that matriarch in your family, and like how that's impacting your work, and even seeing you in Mexico earlier this year, just like the level you've jumped. Like you went quantum from when we first met in person years ago. And yeah, the change is real, folks. And I think everyone who's been watching with us, a lot of people have been stayed the whole time. So if you've been here the whole time, thank you. You're amazing. Reach out to Jordan and myself, send us a DM if you have any questions. Make sure you're following her, vice versa. If you're watching later, type replay in here. There's some mega codes in here. Some of the topics we just touched on are like entire books or courses or whatever. Some have quite a lot of unpacking and digging to do. Like just take the sister wound, for example. Holy shit. Conscious parenting. I mean, that's a whole legacy. But this is the kind of stuff we get to do right now in 2022. Global recession, crazy election. What is a woman? What is a man? Culture wars. Everyone's going batshit crazy. Well, guess what? This is the work. If you are on the front lines and you're questioning the status quo / hyper evolving personally and in love and in your family, if you have kids, it's time. Any excuse or waiting at this moment, it's going to be ripples and ripples and ripples of impact. And I always say this on every podcast is, what are you waiting for? Like pre-2020, I get it. Like, okay, you're waiting. There's going to be an event. Like maybe aliens will come save us, or maybe this will happen. Maybe we'll all live in the jungle together and just farm avocados and fuck the Matrix.
We're for sure doing that.
The world. Yeah.
I want to piggyback on what you said before we go.
Yeah.
If that's okay. Something that really came through about, it's time. We talked about processing and the need for not the need for that. I want to speak specifically to women, and I want to really anchor in this sister wound. We can dig in, like Kevin said, it's a whole book. We'll write one for you. We need to write one together anyways. It's a lot of unpacking. And in this new timeline of radical accountability and responsibility for self and choosing innate worthiness, it's a decision. You don't have to process. It doesn't mean you won't feel the feelings if you're jealous of another woman or something like that. It just means you decide on how you act on it. You decide on how you choose to rethink it. You change from that jealousy to inspiration. It's a decision. And I tell all of my girls this. We can go through this. We can go through the trauma. We can go through everything that's happened to you. We can go through how you've been wronged. We can go through your becoming, your healing, your all the things we can process for a year. That's fine. You're supporting my family. Pay me for a year. And it's really a decision. It's a decision. If you want sacred sisterhood, if you want deep connection with other females, decide that A, I'm worthy of that, and B, so is she. And I'm going to give that to her, even if she's triggering me. Because that trigger is a mirror for what's possible in my own field. So yeah, I really wanted that to come through. Like, you don't need to process, decide, right? Mallory, hi Mallory. Yeah.
That's the title of the book. Don't process, decide.
Don't process, decide. Just decide. It's a decision. And it's important. It's an important one. And it's one that you can make today. And when you start choosing yourself, that's when you'll start to choose to invest in yourself. When you start choosing yourself, that's when you'll choose to attract other women in who get that. It's a decision. We're just in this constant state of like agony and pain and trying to become, and you're not becoming anything. You're remembering who you already are. Allowing her to surface, allowing him to surface. Leaving your insecurities at the door, not because you don't feel them, but because you don't fucking belong where I'm going. Kevin talked about my quantum leaping. I've quantum leaped financially, in my love codes, all kinds of ways. You can go back and watch one of our old videos. There were codes that came through, but man, did I filter. Man, was I even insecure to share. It's untethered now. And part of what Kevin said about being uncomfortable, and I teach this to my clients, you're not uncomfortable. That's a story. It's unfamiliar. And from a socially conditioned space, we link unfamiliar to uncomfortable. We link uncomfortable to fear. And then we're in this space of a reoccurring cycle of fear, and we're trying to seek affirmation outside of us, and we're trying to compete, and we're anchoring in our masculine, and we're forgetting all of our feminine essence. And it's like, wait, what if I just backtracked? And what if when I felt unfamiliar, I just allowed that to be? Wow, this is new in my system. This is unfamiliar. Doesn't mean that it's uncomfortable, and it sure as fuck doesn't mean that it has to equate to fear. It's just new.
It's just information in the body.
Mm.
The same feeling of discomfort or fear is excitement if you recode the story. Because physiologically, it's almost the same.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. And that's the mind fuck of how much our mind and our consciousness actually does literally create our reality, not just as a cool idea, but as a lived phenomenon and experience. So, let's
Good
go.
stuff.
Big codes in here. Jordan, you're a legend. Go follow her at the Miss Jordan. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to go deeper into any of the things we talked about, reach out to one of us or both of us. This has been amazing. It's so good to be back in the channel booth with you, hermana. And yeah, I'll see you
Fun.
soon.
I haven't done this in a while. I love it. I know. I'm like, codes for us too, right? We do this. We teach, and then it's like, whoa. And so you know what we get to do? We get to cook that information, but like rapidly. We get to microwave it. We're going to integrate. We're not going to process.
It's quantum. No process needed.
So good, brother. All right. Well, thank you
Big
so
love.
much. Get some rest tonight. I'm just starting my day. It's going to be a beautiful one. And yeah, if you have this up and people put questions, I'll go in and answer questions as well.
Boom. Let's do it. Thank you all for being here with us. And until next time.
Until next time.